We continue our web series on advanced hormone testing, and in this short tutorial we're going to talk about estrogen metabolism. Our profile for estrogen metabolism is very comprehensive. We're looking at your parent hormones, your primary hormones, estradiol primarily, also estrone and estriol. And so from that we can ascertain how someone's estrogen status is. Are they making a lot of estrogen? Are they not making enough estrogen? But also we can look downstream from those metabolites and see how that estrogen is being metabolized. So we've got phase 1 metabolism and then phase 2 metabolism. So phase 1 metabolism is considered hydroxylation. Hydroxylation is where we turn estrone or estradiol into hydroxyestrogens, and you have three different pathways. You have 16-hydroxy, 4-hydroxy, and 2-hydroxyestrogens. And what we can see here from this pattern is what's normal is about 70% of those metabolites are 2-hydroxyestrogens, this one down at the bottom here. That's considered a favorable metabolite because it has some nice anti-carcinogenic properties, and so we really would rather see that predominate, and that's usually what happens. 70% of that hormone is going down that pathway, and only 10% to the 4-hydroxyestrogen and 20% to the 16-hydroxyestrogen. The one that's really problematic is this 4-hydroxyestrogen because it can make a quinone. If it makes a quinone, it can attach to DNA, and that's where you have some real problems. When 4-hydroxy estrogens, when they attach to DNA, they can actually rip a piece of your DNA off and create DNA damage, and that gives it carcinogenic potential. And so we don't want to see that one predominate. With this particular patient, you can see that hardly any of that estrogen is going down this 2-hydroxy pathway, and a lot of it is heading down the so-called bad estrogen metabolite pathways of the 4 and the 16. So that's something where a lot of providers sometimes look at using things like DIM, diindolylmethane, or indole-3-carbinol, these products, nutritional products, that actually upregulate the process of metabolizing down that 2-hydroxy pathway, and that'll oftentimes pull down E1 and pull down E2, and then increase the 2-hydroxy estrogens and give you a more favorable profile in terms of where your estrogen's going. What it can also be used to do is if your estrogens are high, if your E2 is high, if your E1 is high, it can be used to pull down those really strong estrogens to eliminate some of the estrogen dominance that a patient might have. Once we've looked at phase 1 metabolism, then we want to also look at phase 2 metabolism, which is where we're turning these hydroxyestrogens into methoxyestrogens. That's a protective step. That happens for the 2-hydroxyestrogens, and it also happens for the 4. When the 4 is created, again, it can make a quinone. The quinones are bad. They're reactive. Instead, it can go down this methylation pathway if you're an effective methylator. And so you can see here that this hydroxyestrogen is rather low, and the methoxyestrogen is even lower. So this person scores a little bit low on the methylation pathway. So if you're not doing well at methylating those estrogens, that can be problematic. There are even genetic defects in that pathway where you actually have a genetic defect that you've inherited that makes it so that you can't methylate estrogens very well, and that's really a problem. And so you can, again, address that somewhat nutritionally to help push that methylation along to give yourself more favorable estrogen metabolism. So it's a really comprehensive look at the estrogens. When you're looking at saliva or serum testing, you're really just getting usually either just estradiol or just these primary estrogens, and adding these into the mix can give you, one, a fuller understanding of your estrogen status, and then two, an idea of whether or not there's problematic metabolism that needs to be addressed, both in your premenopausal patients and also in those, and especially in those that are taking HRT, that you really want to be as safe as possible with. So I hope this has been helpful. If you have other questions on other areas, please do feel free to look at our other videos on various topics, and we hope this has been helpful. Please feel free to reach out to us via email, info@precisionhormones.com, if you have any questions, and we thank you for your time.